His Excellency, happy birthday. And also take this opportunity to wish Christabel Ofoku-Kwarteng a happy birthday. She's privileged to be sharing the same day as the president.
Okay.
Well, so my personal view is that this issue is not about Christianity versus Islam. I don't think this issue is about Christianity versus Islam. I think that this issue is one that is a commitment to rights as against restrictions. It's about the constitution against tradition. It's about the Ghanaian child versus institutional powers. That's my personal view. Now, you see, when you read our constitution, and I think the directive principle of state policy, I think Article 35(5). Now, the people of Ghana, when we talk upon our constitution, this constitution sets an agenda for ourselves. And one of that agenda is a political objective. And the 35 says that the state shall actively promote the integration of the peoples of Ghana and prohibit discrimination and prejudice on the grounds of place of origin, circumstance of birth, ethnic origin, gender or religion, creed or other beliefs. I think the constitution is clear on that. Also, like my learned professor said, you know, I was privileged to have been elected by Prof. Itua. Very solid. Like he said, and I must state that I agree for this with his position on this. Now, who is even representing Wesley Girls?
Attorney General.
Why would Attorney General?
No, but they've been ordered to file their response.
Yes, so. but it's the Attorney General that is representing Wesley Girls, and Attorney General is representing Wesley Girls because Wesley Girls is considered to be a public institution. So I think there's a bit of confusion because Wesley Girls, like Infant Spring, like Adisada College, like St. Peter's, like Opukwari, like Prempeh, are all schools that have a religious heritage. But as of today, they are public institutions. And they are public institutions like my own school, Achimota School. Because when you go into the history of education in this country, there was a time when the entire GES budget went to Achimota School because they were a government school. And then the Methodist Church took care of their schools, Presbyterian Church. But then there was a period in our history where GES decided to rope in all these institutions and essentially make them public institutions. You understand? And so because of that, because they are public institutions, then you cannot use that religious heritage to restrict any child in Ghana. You understand? Also, beyond what the Constitution says, I think we must have regard to what the Child's Act says. The Children's Act. And I think that underlying principle, you understand?
Principle.
Exactly. That says that when you're taking any decision about any child, then the most important decision is what is in the best interest of the child. I think that must be very critical here. And to understand what is in the best interest of the child, the Children's Act went further to then state the rights that children have. So beyond the general rights the Constitution has given us, rights to religion, the Children's Act then went further to give rights which are specific to children. I think one of those rights is the right for the children not only to practice their religion, but even to share their opinion in the children. I mean, when you read Section 3 and Section 11 of the Children's Act, a child has a right to practice their own religion. You understand? So I think that an appreciation of this must be the basis for which we make this analysis. For me, it's not about religion. We want to develop the children. We want to develop them not just in terms of their head, we also want to develop them in terms of their heart and their hands. And so you're right when you're saying that, when you said that the focus of our education is not just about developing the intellect, but also developing the character. Yes. And that's why we have a peculiar education system that you struggle to find anywhere in the world. The fact that our public schools are generally boarding schools. Now, if that's the case, that means that the focus of the schools is not just what they do between 8 and 2 o'clock, but what do they do beyond
the 2 o'clock?
At 2 o'clock. And I think we'll be building a very weak country if even at that stage in how we run our schools, we so cease that more or less separate us as against uniting us. Because the fact that we have lived in harmony all this while is not because it's only because people have decided to be very quiet about their rights. You understand? And if I take what happens in Achimota School, then we can replicate it, because in Achimota School, apart from the Rasta issue that came that last time, when you go there, the Catholics have their own church service. The Protestants have their own church service. The Muslims are allowed to also have their own what's called. So on a typical day, so on Friday they go as in, they typically have their own worship. They found a way of fitting that into how the school.
So on Sundays, for example, church service is compulsory.
Not for so on a typical Sunday, the Catholics go to their mass very early, like 6. So let's say I was a Protestant. So by the time I'll be going for my church service, the Catholics would have finished theirs and will be in the.
So you don't have a general service.
No.
As is done in other schools. Achimota doesn't have that.
So I finished in 97. I think it's still the same now. You understand? So we went. So they had a Catholic. They went for their service. We had the Protestants. So the Protestants consisted of all the non-Catholics. We had our own service, and the Muslims also had their own what's called
service.
So for me, if as a people, we have decided in our constitution, like in the political objective, I said, to integrate all of us, then I think it will be a feather in our cap if in our schools we allow for an expression of this
identity. So I get a point about the schools having been taken over by the state now, but the schools are allowed some privileges or some, for example, in some schools, I don't know whether it still holds, you cannot be headmaster or headmistress unless you come from the mission that established the school. Even to be SP, you must belong to the school, the mission that established the school. All of that. I don't know whether those things still hold. So that is an acknowledgement of the effort that those missions made in establishing the schools. In fact, if those missions hadn't done those things, I don't know which schools would have been relying on now. Many of the very good schools are mission schools. And perhaps they are the best because they were taught or they trained the people well, and today we see them as the best, and the state has taken over them. So if we allow it that way, what do they gain? What do they get in response or in exchange for the investment they made in establishing the schools?
Salom, I can tell you on all authority that the issue about the restricting who is headmaster, all of those things, is there because nobody has challenged it in court. I'm telling you. Until this matter went to court, I'm sure they were restricting other faiths. You understand? So it's only there because nobody's has challenged it. But if they challenge it in court, they can't say that unless you can only become headmaster of, let's say, Infant School if you are a Methodist. You understand? And their proud heritage, as in their what's called their heritage of excellence, is not only because of their Christian faith. So are we saying that
the discipline, the training,
exactly,
which is rooted in Christian faith?
So are we then by extension saying that if your faith is Islam, then you struggle to have a heritage of excellence? Achimota School isn't a religious school. I know my brother here won't agree. I can state that it's the greatest school in this country, but it's not a religious school. Achimota School is not a religious school. But the point is that
when you look at maybe a scale of, about 20 schools, 20 so-called top schools in Ghana, more than 60% of them will be mission schools. And there should be a reason for that. But
now, since about the 60s, the government has funded them.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, there should be a reason why we consider them as the best. It's perhaps because they have instilled some amount of discipline, which is conducive for excellence and for academic,
So let's take Presec. Let's take Presec Legon. There are about 1,000 Presecs. Presec Legon, Presec Legon.
So how many?
Why was it just about 99% of the Presec schools are not at grade A.
At that level, yeah.
So it's not about they are not good or excellent because of their religious background per se. You understand? In fact, most of these schools, Addisa 1905, Infant Spring 1876. At that time, almost every boy who was sharp and wanted to go to school, they didn't have a choice. They had to go to either Infant Spring or Addisa Dale. You understand? And so over the years, they had that because of scarcity. Yes, they had a pick of all the best. And they've built a heritage of, and right now most of the top schools are because of their pedigree, they attract the most intelligent students. So it's more or less garbage in, garbage out. So for me, it's not about the religion. We want to build a country where we are really and truly integrated. We want to build a country where rights of citizens are respected. You understand? And one of those cardinal rights are your right to express your religion. I'm a Christian. In fact, I'm a born-again Christian. You understand? But I don't think the fact that I'm a born-again Christian, I'm a Christian, I have a right to limit, let's say, my brother Hamza from practicing his faith. And I don't see how that takes anything away from the ability of the schools to keep this. And also I'm giving a typical example. That when you go to Achimota School today, they found a way of allowing an expression of all these religions, and yet discipline hasn't broken down. The schools shouldn't be seen to be restricting people's expression, because then they'll be discriminating. Yes, and then they'll be flouting Section 8 of the Children's Act, which says that the children should be allowed to develop in dignity. So if I can't express, I can't pray. Yes, and if, let's say, I can't pray only because I found myself, what kind of information are they telling my young mind? Yes, and that's why I said that in analyzing this issue, I think the most important thing is Section 2 of the Children's Act. What is the best? Because the fasting issue has been brought. For me, my question when it comes to just the fasting issue, that in periods of Lent, I was also know that there is Lent. So when you go to Adisade College, there'll be Lent. When you go, what the schools do they allow them to fast? I'm sure it's no. They allow them to.
No, I know.
You understand? So the question we should watch during Lent period.
What do they do?
Do they so-called? If they don't allow the children to fast, in fact, it's Lent, then at that point, an argument could be made that
it is not about Islam.
It's not about Islam. It's a policy, and for them, in their view, it is in the best interest of the children not to be starving. You understand? And that's why, for me, I don't want us to make this issue about whether it's Christian
or Islam.
At the end of the day, they have a religious heritage, but they're all public schools like Achimota School now. They're all public schools.
Yes.
GS gives them gives Achimota School same budget like it gives Adisade or Wesley Girls. You get picture. So immediately we start looking at it from just the religion. Then I think the confusion will be creating as an. Let's look at this issue within the context of the Constitution and within the context of the law.